Welcome to our panel discussion today with our industry experts discussing how they are leveraging augmented reality, virtual reality, and wearables in their own specific operations. First, I want to introduce the panel. My name is Joe Tarvin. I'm the Senior Sales Manager for North America with Picavi. And first, Larry Olson, please introduce yourself.
Hey, Joe, thanks. So yeah, I'm Larry Olson. I'm currently the Director of Business Technology Solutions for Neovia Logistics Services. So Neovia is essentially the divested arm of Caterpillar Logistics, and that transition occurred about 8 years ago or so. So 24 years of experience in various positions within Caterpillar and Neovia, including IT, operations, supply chain solutions, and became a Six Sigma Black Belt through the Caterpillar organization there. So I currently manage a team of people globally that are in charge of innovations and solutions for both our new business partners as well as our current client base. Based on my background experience, able to apply a lot of relevant application opportunities to things like Google Glass and wearables within our operations.
Thanks, Larry. And Brandt Wilson, please.
Sure. Hey guys, my name is Brandt. So I work for Night Swift Transportation. We're, I guess, the largest full truckload company in the nation. So we are delivering all types of freight from dry van, refrigerated, intermodal services across the nation, some Canada and Mexico as well. I've been with Knight, it'll be 5 years in January. Probably the most junior on the panel, I'm going to assume, but happy to be around these guys and learn from them as well. So we've been doing some virtual reality and tested different wearables things for probably the last three or so years. Learned a lot of different things, and happy to be part of the group.
Thanks, Brandt. And finally, Mark Grob.
Hi, my name is Mark Grob. I'm the head of the Immersive Tech Center at UPS. And we're pretty large when it comes to delivering packages. I'm in charge of groups that enable things like virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality inside of UPS, as well as a few cognitive services or machine learning sort of applications. I've been at UPS for almost 4 years come November. And UPS has been on it for a while, since probably at least 2016. So we've been doing a lot in the space. We've researched a lot, and the market's rather interesting.
So thanks, everyone. And as you can see from the introductions, we've got some both transportation expertise here, as well as warehouse and supply chain expertise. So I think we're set up to have a good discussion here for the next 30 to 45 minutes, and then answer your questions in the Q&A session following. So the topics today then are really in the area of the optimization of warehouse layouts with respect to augmented reality and virtual reality. How do we get goods to the customer cheaper, faster, and more simply? The simplification of warehouse processes, specifically in the areas of picking and packing. How do we guide and protect both transportation workers as well as warehouse workers, especially in this new era of COVID and dealing with the ramifications of the global pandemic? And then a final topic of consideration is how do we reduce the overall training time through leveraging AR and VR? So with that, let's go to the first topic, and Larry, around the optimization of some warehouse layouts and things of that nature. From our prior discussions, I know you've done a lot of research with geolocating and warehouse data coming off of the wearables and things of that nature. So if you'd like to just kick us off with sharing your experiences in that area, that'd be great.
Yep. Yeah, thanks, Joe. So yeah, so initially when I read the question, I was thinking it's more tailored towards the virtual warehouse concept, which we have dabbled in, mainly talking to some vendors, et cetera, about how, in our business, we're building warehouse concepts and then proposing those to customers. And the virtual side of that goes a long way, where you can essentially put on, a VR type tool and let your customer really get immersed in the experience. So we've done a little bit on that, but I think really what I'd like to maybe focus on right now is what we're probably closer to, which is, we have employees that are wearing these devices in the warehouse today, and for us it's Google Glass type devices. They're essentially like wearing a cell phone on your head. So as you think of all the tracking capabilities there are within the phone environment, we have that same thing in our employees in the warehouse. So we're really starting to look to capturing data from those devices, within, where the employees are at within the warehouse environment, some heat mapping type exercises, as well as just ergonomics in general. So when you think about it, right, your phone can tell how many steps you took in a day. We can do the same thing with these wearable devices, right? We can tell how much traveling are our employees doing, how much bending are they doing. There are actually a lot of devices that are coming out in the market now that do the same thing, clip-on type wearables of that nature that'll give you ergonomic type feedback, as well as, we're kind of in the age of COVID right now in the social distancing aspect, but yeah, the distance that employees are actually, spending, near other employees. So that type of feedback, if for us in the past, it was congestion. Now we call it social distancing. So I think, that type of feedback, we're really starting to dig into that analysis now that we have these wearable devices, that started with projecting, information to the associates where they can, take action on it. Now let's extract the back end data from that, and let's kind of look at the historical trends and learn from that.
Great. Thanks, Larry. The next topic of discussion is getting goods to the customer faster and cheaper. And there's some augmented reality techniques around in-process inspection that we want to discuss next.
I could add to that. At UPS, we have implemented a few operational tool sets with wearables. One example is when we're in the hubs, we provide sort of a virtual mentor tool where you can get people quick enough to speed and confident to do their role, as well as also UPS, we utilize our smart networks for logistics. So we have a capability of connecting our augmented reality wearables into that smart network so that we can in real time support where the package is or where the issue may lie in that transition. Another example would be we use HoloLens to also help link IoT devices while we're doing things like, say, automotive review, predetermining based on a printer readout where potential issues could be. That would be the same for if we look at package line, right? Engines start to receive aware, predictive maintenance, things of that nature. We can use augmented space to actually help move the employee to the direct device that's starting to fail and that sort of thing. So implementing a smart network with predictive maintenance and then using the AR wearable to actually support the translation between the AI understanding it and the individual actually finding it. Pretty cool stuff.
Nice. Thank you, Mark. Next topic is simplification of warehouse processes. And I've seen a lot of warehouses in the last 20 years of doing this. And, the traditional paper pick process has evolved from there into RF pick technology to voice technology, now to vision technology. And there's one area that I want to open up to discussion is just that transition, primarily from voice to vision, but it really can be from any of these technologies to AR and VR and wearables.
Yeah, Joe, I guess based on our 3PL experience with warehouses, I can probably talk to both of those, including the voice division as you mentioned, and honestly from paper division, as we know, not all warehouses in the world have advanced past paper. Honestly, in some instances, we still have a lot of paper picking processes out there. So that's kind of the big leap, right? Is when you're going from paper to say a vision process. It's definitely a drastic change. So we're in our space, we've we've implemented, upgraded, I would say, from a voice to a vision type picking solution. That was our initial install. So that's kind of the small step, even though we did see some big gains from it, right? We're seeing, in the range of 10 to 15% productivity. And it really, if I had to attribute it to I guess a couple things. One would be the instructions that the users are hearing and have to react to versus now they're seeing and reacting to. So I think, just as a person and how we comprehend things, we tend to comprehend things very visually. So the more we put in front of our eyes, the more we comprehend it. We've had, I know, voice has been around for a while, as you said, right? The progression was to RF and then voice, but voice isn't, necessarily a new technology. In fact, it's been around. I think the system we replaced was about 7 or 8 years old, so we'd had it in place for a while. But that, especially, I think the other challenge we saw with that is the language barrier. So while we do have English speaking people, it's not their native language. So sometimes the spoken voice concept was a bit hard to comprehend versus now we're putting it in front of them visually. And we are seeing some gains and benefits from that. And then obviously, our transitions, we've installed, that was our first install. We've done a few installs now that have actually been from paper to voice. And we're seeing, honestly, similar from a productivity standpoint. Paper processes, while they maybe not have the quality aspects to it, they are fairly efficient when you have a good one in place and one that you've kind of tailored and enhanced over the years. And that's kind of where we were at, is we had really good paper processes in place, but we were just kind of stuck, right? Kind of hit our ceiling as to where we could grow from there. So now we're looking to vision. We're putting those in. We're able to make some changes within the process that's enabling. And then again, taking the visual aspect to it. So going from paper, where you're reading paper, to reading something in front of your eyes, it's a similar concept. But what we're doing now with the vision is we're able to change and tailor the process. Plus, we're getting that real-time feedback now electronically. That's probably the biggest disadvantage to paper, is that you don't have the real-time visibility. The steps of the process are kind of unknown because the person's operating at their own pace with the paper. You kind of know the start of the process and the end, but what happens in the middle is a bit unknown. So we are getting that feedback. I kind of mentioned, some of the feedback we're getting on geolocating. We're getting similar feedback now from the voice system because we know how long they spent on a screen, or did they hit a help button, or did they have an exception in the process. We're getting a whole lot more data, feedback as we moved into that voice or into that vision arena.
Excellent. Next topic that we're going to focus on is really how we guide and protect those workers as we transition to an augmented reality or a vision-based a virtual reality type of system. But we're going to switch the focus out of the warehouse more into the transportation areas. Two of our panelists are really focused on transportation and things like pre-trip inspection and different processes like that. So let's pick up the discussion, but switch it out into transportation here.
Sure, I can jump in first here. I would say we probably have pretty limited not knowledge, but experience with virtual reality, augmented reality. We've tried a couple different things, but one of the things that did kind of get up off the ground and that we're currently using is like you mentioned, a virtual reality pre-trip. And for anyone that's been to Phoenix, even before COVID and all those things, to not have to go stand out in a yard at 120 degrees and be able to do that indoors, that's enough benefit in and of itself, right? Yeah. So that being said, it's been pretty unique for us because when you've got 10 students to one instructor, to each one, with the instructor have to go around, that takes an experienced driver anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes. When you're learning all the new pieces of a truck and trailer, you can spend a significant amount of time out there. So one of the big benefits to being able to do a pre-trip inspection virtually is, they're able to zip around the truck in a comfortable space and have a lot of those instructions built in. So when they click something, it highlights and explains that piece. Maybe even a video pops up and shows them how that should look. So when they do get to go out there to the actual truck, they've had much more hands-on experience, than they really were able to have before. So we've seen some pretty cool gains from that. and then the quality of teaching, right? We've got over 50 facilities across the nation, and each one has a different facilitator. So not that they're not all great facilitators, but when you can have our director of safety, or who's an ex officer that has firsthand experience on how all that works, to have his voice there saying some of the things we really want to come across strong to the drivers is a really big deal. So that's definitely a big benefit to us, and we hope to continue to grow that. We've actually implemented it into some of our other trainings, and hopefully have the opportunity to continue to grow with that.
Yeah,
And Mark, go ahead, Mark. I was
going to say, I'd like to add to that. UPS since 2016, we've been doing a lot in our driver safety, our undergrad program with VR. Pre-tripping now is one of the things we've added. Hazard identification. We're also doing simple things like sort, select, and pick from within inside the package car. These are all things that originally were physical, and we're finding we're having a lot of success in gained confidence, acceleration to learn, all within the virtual space. Plus, also with COVID, we found, we don't need to have them at a center or institution anymore. We can virtually mail them their VR kit and have them interact and learn. So the first day they arrive on site, they have typically very high confidence in the roles that they're going to be doing. And, relating to now this new norm, that's one big sort of saying that I say right now at UPS is we've had a VR explosion for VR training because of the current norm, right? People can't come into a center and be huddled in a room of 20 people in a classroom anymore. So the aspects of VR, it's such a big game changer. It's, as some people might say, it's a force multiplier. And it's one real exciting thing that, in the last year we've seen UPS really accelerate.
And the other thing that I found interesting in some of our discussions prior to this recording and this web event was around the fatigue testing and wrist devices that as a warehouse guy personally I don't have any experience in, but found it really interesting. Could elaborate on that too.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Joe. We talked about that, on previous calls, and for us, honestly, we haven't had a ton of success, even though we've tested quite a few different ones. And I guess the challenge is obviously I think everyone's pretty familiar with driving on the road. Fatigue, no matter how big the car or truck, that can be a challenge if you've ever been on a long road trip. So that's obviously something we're very interested in and have done a decent amount of research on. I think some of the wearables are very cool that we've tested. When I would get to test them personally, it helped me learn when nights that I hadn't slept good and when I was most likely going to be tired the next day. But for an enterprise or, a company our size, when you've got, I don't know the exact number, but 17,000 plus drivers, that means you're going to have a lot of guys tired all at the same time. And it's really hard to do something about that, because they're professional drivers. They're definitely expected to manage that and are very capable of doing that. For us, it's really trying to find a way to identify in the moment when someone's maybe really struggling with handling being tired, maybe didn't make the decision to pull over or do something like that. So really the success that we've found, and we're still really in the piloting phases, is they're really infrared sensors that are detecting eye movement, head movement, and things like that. Obviously, the probably the most effective would be an inward-facing camera that through artificial intelligence can do all of that. But in our industry specifically, if you it would be like asking us to have a camera in our bedroom. So that's not a very comfortable situation, because those drivers are living in those trucks, right? So we as a company feel very strongly that that's not really an option. So these infrared sensors and things that aren't necessarily recording anything like that, but are just set up to detect those kind of things, is probably the direction we'll end up heading in. Where honestly, if a wearable was good enough to, with just heart rate and the other things that it tracks, detect, hey, this is a critical moment and could notify us or even alert the driver, that's where we'd rather go. It's just less intrusive, and it's just something easy that they can wear on their wrist, and is obviously worth the cost of making sure those guys and gals get home safely to their families. So that's kind of the experience we've had with that. I don't know if that's definitely not particularly just for COVID. That's always, something on top of mind for transportation companies. So.
Gotcha. Thanks. Switching the topic then to the same topic from transportation into the warehouse. I know from a Picavi standpoint, we've got things like proximity sensors that we could use for social distancing and things of that nature. But from a warehouse perspective then, and with COVID top of mind, what are some of the things that you've had to do in the last few months for guiding and protecting workers?
One thing we've done at UPS over the last year is really institute what we call hygiene policies. So because it's a wearable, right? You have to now institute all these new technologies. For example, like Clean Box. Was a big item. Very rapidly we had to act and move on, kind of getting these things clear from our health and safety groups. Then getting them in line with standards. The idea of something sounds as simple as a process of how to properly wipe a wearable. These are things that in the current market, it's all about confidence, right? We want people to utilize the technology, but if you don't feel confident in it, you're not going to use it. So that's been a big game changer in the last, I'd say, 6 to 8 months, right? Is one, people got to keep their distance, but two, they've got to feel confident that you as the employer. I don't know, some of you, especially trade unions and things of that nature, right? These are all key factors that they have in mind for their people. So, exploring and innovating right now in those spaces is a key thing and a key concern for us here at UPS. So, and we have some good solutions in place now. And it was a challenge kind of getting there and figuring it out.
Yeah, I can similarly, that everybody's, I think, paid more attention to wiping down almost everything now, right? But it's almost a requirement of wearable devices, especially the ones you wear on your head and your face, right? Especially, we move from the operation that moved for us from voice to a vision solution was a bit more attuned to it because the voice is also something they're wearing on their head. But the paper-based operation people is definitely a change to them, right? And it's like putting on someone else's sunglasses or eyeglasses, right? You kind of, especially, you have germs on your hands, and people will probably tell you your hands are constantly carrying germs, but nobody wants to then put those germs, on their face or their head. So the wiping down of glasses has definitely been key for us from the start, providing those type of sanitary wipes. That's part of the training program is how to wipe them down. So when you're done at the end of the shift, you need to be wiping them down because the next person's got to use that device, right? So that hygiene actually played right into the COVID. But that was already in place for that. And I guess the other piece on the vision side is, especially for us, we have certain operations that are safety glass based. So we have a vision solution that's kind of embedded to a safety glass. But if you've ever wiped down your sunglasses or your regular glasses with a solution or an antibacterial solution, it definitely doesn't make them streak free like you would like to see. So we have to have a secondary, almost like glass wipe in addition to the hygiene wipe. So definitely that fit. Like I said, that was an easy transition because it was already in place for COVID today. So probably one of the cleanest things in our warehouses was probably our vision solution wear because it gets wiped down every shift.
Perfect. All right, final topic then for the panel, really a discussion around using these techniques, virtual reality, augmented reality, wearables, for the purpose of reduction of overall training time. We're going to do a transportation focus first, and then again a warehouse or DC focus to finish it off. So go ahead.
Sure, I can jump in there first. I kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, right? With the pre-trip, it definitely has reduced overall training time with being able to, it's really an opportunity for these guys to put on a virtual reality headset without an instructor and get a lot of value, which is big for us. We're also using, driving simulators to do similar things, just even more, and we see that industry moving probably pretty quickly into the virtual reality, extended reality. Right now there's still 3 big screens, but we've already seen some testing of those screens becoming a headset and really being immersed in the driving world. So for us, honestly, it's just that we train so many students, new drivers every week, that you need a way to effectively train these guys. And as great as it would be to have a one-on-one relationship with a facilitator with every trainee, that's really just not possible. So virtual reality simulators and such give us a way to be able to get them hopefully the same, if not better, quality training. We've actually seen up to 60% quicker learning on a lot of these, virtual reality and simulators than the typical, actually in the truck learning. So that's very encouraging to us. Things like backing, for example. I think you have a little more courage when you're not actually going to hit something when you're learning to back, as well as we've even seen the increased efficiency in, hey, you don't have to stop at a stoplight for 45 seconds or a minute. It can be a 5-second stoplight. You still got to learn to come to the red light and then move on. So all things like that adds up really quickly with the number of students and time we have. So all those things I think are good examples of how this technology is making it extremely more efficient for a company our size to train all the students that we do.
Yeah, and to add to that with UPS, right? With using something like that, we kind of call the concept the virtual mentor instead of having to have a physical mentor, right? The beautiful thing of immersive tech is it can be virtual, right? It could be on site next to them in a virtual environment, or it could be something where literally this person's remote, miles away. But since they can share that virtual space, you can do things like the pre-trip, the PMI, checking the tire pressure and things of that nature. And that can be done also through, I may be actually next to the real vehicle, right? And my mentor is in another center somewhere around the world, right? Or for our driver safety aspects of it, right? We're international, so I can take something virtual and localize it. So I may speak English, but say the new trainee, they speak German. So to be able to have all these tools, it just creates that confidence, that speed, that multiplier. And if it's something where the knowledge resource then is more just there to sort of observe and assist if needed, we're really being efficient in regards to how we're managing the knowledge person behind the topic. And the other part to this also is engagement, right? In specifically sort of our package operation, right? Traditionally, we have a lot of burnout, a lot of people walking away, right? VR is great because they're getting a good sense of what they're getting into, and we're maintaining confidence into what they have to do. And part of that also, to kind of play a flip on this, is we're also able to potentially detect lemons sooner, right? So instead of someone working 3 weeks at a site and then deciding, you know what, I'm not actually going to do the physical part because I don't want to do that, right? The idea here is through virtual reality, they're going through all these routines and all these roles, and through analytics, we can determine, based on, well, this should only take them, 10 seconds to do. The person's taking 45 seconds. Why is that, right? Or part of the task is you need to specifically finish this topic in virtual reality. If they're never finishing it, right, that's a metric. So do they have goals and do they want to complete it? So that's kind of the flip to this discussion as well. So those are things that we're thinking about when we're implementing these sort of simulations and on multiple types of platforms. But again, it's confidence, the ability for the user to feel they're going to hit the ground running when it comes to the real thing, and retention, right? We want people we want them to stay. We want them to be part of the UPS family, right?
All right, switching the focus from the transportation into the warehouse, same topic, reduction of training time for the worker.
Yep, yeah, I can definitely touch on that with our experience. As I mentioned before, right, our first installation was moving from voice to vision. So we definitely wanted to track a lot of metrics because this was really our pilot, right? Trying to understand, is this something we want to move forward with? And we were, I think, somewhat surprised to see the significant reduction in training time. That was the first I'd heard, Brandt mentioned their kind of ramp up in training, that that 60% mark. Ours is somewhere in the 50 to 60% range, also between voice and vision. It's hard to put your finger exactly on what exactly is driving that. I'd mentioned before, I think some of it's especially for our non-native English speakers, it's the interpretation of the spoken English language versus putting something visual in front of them. We're also able to parse out, I think, a bit more the process steps for them, where we're vision-wise and within the system, we're only giving them the amount of information they need to complete the next step of their process. And then once they've indicated they've completed it, then we're moving on to the next step. So it's kind of piecemealing that process a little bit. So I guess for us, it's two areas. It's the training time. So we have a simulated environment we put our employees through before they get into a production environment. So that simulated environment, what we're seeing is about a 50%, we're able to get them on the floor 50% quicker. And then once they're in the production environment, we're seeing kind of similar results, about 50% or so increase or decrease in the ramp up time, I would say, from when they start, they're 50%, efficient, to when they're kind of proficient within their position. So in the past, right, it would be 3 to 4 week period. Now we're seeing it, in the 2 week range. So both of those, we've seen, a definite advantage to the vision solution. And then just recently, we've gotten some results now from our paper picking division, which I was interested in, right? Because it's a different starting point. The baseline of the understanding of the people as they transition, it's a different starting point for them. Yeah. Two, we're also seeing, the 50% range. So it's, again, I think while it's still, they were reading paper before and now they're reading a screen. Again, I would probably more attribute it to our ability to parse out the process steps for them, especially a new person. Because when you train them on a paper process, you can give them, written documentation, you can walk them through their process steps. But if it's a 10-step process, they still have to remember all 10 steps. And did they miss a step? Did they have to go back to a step? So by parsing out that information to them, versus them trying to remember the multiple steps of the process, I think is really helping in that aspect to reduce that training time and get them a better level of understanding. They just need to understand that step of the process, and then when they move to the next step, they just need to understand that step. So we've definitely seen a benefit and advantage to moving to the vision systems.
Great. Well, we're almost out of time here in terms of the discussion, so we'll just move into a quick summary to the panel. Any final thoughts or comments from anyone regarding this topic, and then we'll close it out and move to the Q&A.
Just one more thing to add. If you look at it from the standpoint of virtual reality or in the field operations, right? It's about safety. It's about confidence, right? Because if they're confident, less errors, less time to do the job, right? I think that's something that specifically in the last year or so with this hardware that we've been seeing coming out, we're definitely seeing great, progress and trends going forward. So it's exciting. And I'm hoping the panel agrees with me. There's a lot of, motion going forward. So it's exciting times.
Yeah, I mean, it's as you said, it's new technology to a lot of us. We're kind of learning as we go. These other technologies we've mentioned, right? I won't include paper in the technology, but RF and voice that have been out a while. The industry has had time to advance those to a certain stage, and you're almost kind of at a ceiling on both of those. And that's kind of what I see with the vision solutions, right? We're kind of just entering a new phase and a new technology with lots of upside. So I think we're just kind of scratching the surface of the capabilities of it and some of the things we described here. But we're definitely, seems like, you know, every month we're coming up with some new concept or some new way to apply the technology as we go forward here.
Definitely, I completely agree with that. I mean, as crazy as 2020 and COVID have been, I guess a silver lining to all of it is, for a legacy industry like ours, you know, it really pushes us, you know, into those uncomfortable zones of needing to innovate and develop new things and try new technologies, which there's a lot of resistance to those things in our industry. And it's given us the opportunity to spread our wings a little bit. So definitely been a crazy time around all these technologies.
Perfect. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you especially to my three panelists here today for the great discussion. And we're going to switch over now to the Q&A session that will be post this recording and live. So we look forward to all your questions and happy to answer them when they come up. Thanks, everyone.